So I don't know if you remember back in April when President Obama caused a huge geschrei amongst politicos over a stupid comment that he made. What happened was that in a press conference with California's Attorney General Kamala Harris, the president made an off-the-cuff remark that the Attorney General was the most attractive one in the country. Of course, accusations of sexism, insensitivity, and general idiocy soon ensued in the news center. And we all know that politicians are known for making gaffes, and sometimes a gaffe is just a gaffe. And I don't think the president was trying to offend anyone with his remark. But I do think that these kinds of remarks about appearance point to something rather insidious in our culture. Women in the workplace all over the country, even female rabbi friends of mine, complain that people compliment them for the way that they are dressed or how they look, instead of focusing on the work that they do. These comments reflect a reality in which people, and in particular women, are objectified for their appearance. Even when comments about appearance can come off as compliments, they still convey an insensitivity because they convey that the person does not truly see you for who you are or value the contribution that you can make through your work or your generosity of spirit. And those of us who are not as attractive are often overlooked by their bosses and coworkers and feel completely invisible. While this tendency to focus on appearance is disappointing, it's also universal. Kamala Harris, when asked about the comment that President Obama made about her, admitted that she too judges people by appearance, even though she knows better. Isn't that remarkable? A strong woman in public office who's had to overcome prejudices about her gender and her race admits that even she makes judgments about people based on appearance from time to time. In fact, I think it's something that we all do, at least subconsciously. Scientific and sociological studies show that it is completely ubiquitous in our society. Outwardly attractive people not only have an easier time getting a date, but they also have it easier in pretty much every other aspect of life. A study out of the Notre Dame School of Business shows that less attractive people are more likely to be bullied in the workplace. Studies show that more attractive people tend to hold higher paying jobs than their more plain-looking counterparts. They also show that teachers expect more from their attractive students and give them more attention and less punishment. I could rattle off statistics and studies until the cows come home, but suffice it to say that all of this leads me to believe that the most common form of prejudice in our society is not racism, not sexism, not homophobia. It's looksism. It isn't something that's really talked about, but it does reflect an ugly side of human nature. People want to be around good-looking people and find attractive people easier to like. It's a real shame, though, because I know that whether we get attention for our looks or not, none of us wants to feel misunderstood or objectified or invisible. And I think that we can all believe that an ideal world is one in which physical appearance matters far less than kindness, compassion, and a good work ethic. Of course, looksism is very apparent in our Torah portion this week, Vayetze. Jacob, after fleeing from his brother, comes to live with his kinsman Lavan. While there, he marries his two wives, Leah and Rachel, but he does not treat them equally. The Torah tells us that Jacob loved Rachel, but he hated Leah, his accidental bride whom he only married out of a trick. Why is that the case? The only hint that the Torah gives us comes in a single verse that focuses on the physical characteristics of Rachel and Leah. It tells us that Rachel was beautiful to look at, and that Leah had enei rechot, weak eyes. Now this verse is very puzzling. It seems to create a contrast between Rachel and Leah. But if it was meant to do that, we might expect that it would say that Rachel was beautiful and that Leah was ugly. It doesn't say that, though. It says that Leah had weak eyes. And unless weak eyes is some kind of epithet for saying that Leah was ugly, it's unclear why these two details are juxtaposed. So the meaning of weak eyes is ambiguous. Our medieval commentators on the Bible have dueling views of what this detail of weak eyes actually means. Rashi, the medieval commentator of the Torah par excellence, says that weak eyes refers to a midrash that tells us that Leah's eyelashes fell out because she was crying when she heard that Rachel was to marry Jacob. The implication being that she would have to marry Jacob's older brother Esau. This midrash portrays Leah's weak eyes as a negative physical attribute. But another medieval sage, Rashbam, suggests that weak eyes are actually beautiful eyes. So we see that there is no consensus about the meaning of this obscure detail. We cannot say with certainty what it actually means. I want to suggest to you tonight that the meaning in weak eyes is not whether Leah was pretty or not. The meaning is in the fact that the detail itself is ambiguous. We cannot make a determination from the details that we have been given whether Leah was outwardly beautiful or not. Therefore, the contrast that the Torah is creating through this ambiguity is not whether Rachel was beautiful or that Leah was ugly. The real contrast is that Rachel's beauty was outward. It was completely apparent to everyone who saw her. Leah, on the other hand, is more complicated. Her beauty is not easily seen from outward appearance. The ambiguity of the weak eyes detail thus serves as an invitation to look deeper than appearance, to look into those weak eyes, the windows into her soul. Physical appearance can only tell us so much about Leah. Her true beauty will become apparent if we can transcend initial impressions and look within. Jacob's failure to look beyond physical appearances made him fixated on Rachel, while Leah's interiority was completely ignored, and the full scope of her being remained invisible even to her own husband. The story of Leah and Rachel tells us that our eyes are very limited in their ability to see the beauty of people. In fact, the book of Numbers commands us to wear physical reminders of the mitzvot, the tzitzit, because of our human inclination to follow the lustful urges of our eyes. The text of the verse literally says that if we do not remind ourselves of the commandments, then our eyes will whore after the things that lead us astray. Not only are our eyes weak, but they can also lead us to the wrong desires and the wrong conclusions about people. So what can we do about this? First of all, we have to have some self-awareness of our human nature. We use our eyes to make many determinations about people. We have to notice when we make these judgments about people based on appearance, and then try to overcome them when they hinder us from truly knowing someone. As we recognize the weakness of vision of the eyes, it is important that we cultivate vision of the heart. We have to see people not just for their looks, but for their emotional maturity, their value as a friend or confidant, their compassion, their passion, and the value that they bring to this world. As I think about vision of the heart, I think of the story of Jesse and Kelly Caudill. This couple caught a lot of press attention lately because of a picture that was taken of them together. The picture shows the couple smiling brilliantly at each other, so obviously happy and so thoroughly in love with each other. When you gaze closer at the picture, you realize that Kelly is physically carrying her husband on her back because he doesn't have any legs. Jesse, it turns out, was a Marine stationed in Afghanistan when he suffered a catastrophic injury because of an IED explosion. Both of his legs had to be amputated. The story is so heartwarming despite the tragedy because Kelly was able to get past the initial appearance of a broken body and embrace her husband for the totality of his being. Their story shows that vision of the heart has the power to triumph over our human nature when we allow it to help us look behind those weak eyes and get a well-rounded picture of people. I know it's hard to get past appearances. It requires us to rise above and transcend our human nature. But when we do move past the visual, entire worlds of possibility will open up for us as we can more acutely see how much beauty truly exists in everyone that we know. For we all know that living a truly beautiful life is not about beautification of the body. It's about beautification of the soul. So, do we have some announcements tonight?